It's not that I set out to make a book about class. It's that I set out to make a book that people would respond to. And so if you want people to respond to something, there has to be elements of truth to it. Shubeik Lubeik is about a world where you can buy and sell wishes, and the more expensive a wish is, the more powerful its ability to grant your desire. So for example, if you buy a wish for $1 million, it'll give you exactly what you want. But if you buy a wish for 500 pounds, it's going to trick you like a monkey's paw. And the plot of the 3 books is that there's a man who has 3 first-class wishes that he doesn't want to use or sell because he thinks they're religiously impermissible, haram. And because of his debts, he decides to sell them all at a huge discount. So the book is kind of split into 3 sections, and each section is about who gets one of his discounted first-class wishes. So the main character of Shubeik Lubeik is Shukri. He is the owner of the kiosk, and he is sort of a very generous, but also sort of, I would say, very traditional and kind of by-the-book person. And the 3 people he sells his wishes to are Aziza, who is a widow, and there's Noor, who is a university student studying wishes. And the main character of the 3rd book is Shoaya, who is an old chain-smoking woman who hangs out at Shukri's kiosk. And those are sort of the 4 main characters of the book, and then there's other characters that you'll meet throughout as well. Most wish stories are either about the genies or cautionary tales. They never deal directly with what people want. I think, like, the most famous wish story is Aladdin, who, like, wishes to, especially Disney's Aladdin, not the regular one. But he wishes to, become a prince. He wishes to get rich, things like that. And so I think when you deal with that, like, you have to look at what Aladdin really wants and how that can be fulfilled. And the story kind of goes through the vision of, like, when he gets it, it's not in the way he wants and it ruins everything. But what if he just really got rich? What if he just really lived like a prince? And he was just, like, what would his life be like if it didn't have sort of, implications of a story perspective? And so for me, I was just thinking of, like, what do people want? Why, if people can wish for eternal wealth, if people can wish for luck, what would the world look like? Every time I meet someone, I ask, well, if you could buy a wish for $1 million, and in this situation, you have $1 million, what would you wish for? And usually people are like, well, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't wish for anything. I'm like, that's the point, though, because you wouldn't wish for, like, a house, you wouldn't wish for a car, you wouldn't wish for anything you could buy. And so most people I know, they're very spiritual, so a lot of them wish for things like, I would wish to go to heaven, I would wish for contentment. And I think those are very good answers, and they're kind of addressed throughout the books. For me, actually, I would save my wish. I'm the kind of person who is worried about the future. So I would just save my wish in like the event of a disaster. I would use my wish then. So I would think of it as like not an investment, but I would think of it as an emergency wish. When I'm building a story, I'm not trying to address an issue. I'm just thinking, well, this world functions like this, so you must talk about that. Like, there are wishes in this world, and they're based on price, so you have to talk about class. You can't avoid it. But it's not that I set out to make a book about class. It's that I set out to make a book that people would respond to. And so if you want people to respond to something, there has to be elements of truth to it. It's not a book about the real world at all. It's kind of a book about how worlds can look and how different things can make small situations can make very huge differences and create sorts of parallel histories, and how someone might get really immersed in that. I think for me, actually, I was concerned with the believability of my world more than anything. I didn't want people to read it and think, this is a metaphor for the current situation, because I think that's like a minimum thing. Like, every story is a metaphor for a situation. Every story can affect an issue. Every story has a moral of some sort or has a vision of some sort, if you look at it that way, if that's what you're looking for when you're reading a story. But I would hope people don't read my book hoping to solve real-world issues or find solutions for real-world issues. I hope they can just feel entertained and interested in the story itself.